Welcome to Warblog. Today we're going to look, interestingly enough, at something that's not current, the 1946 Calcutta Calcutta Killings. Obviously everything else is, I haven't done a historic one for a long time, so, overloaded really, but I was Googling and somehow I came across this, and I have no idea why, because I wasn't Googling for anything sort of conflict-wise. I was just Googling for some images, and I came across this scenario. In particular, I came across the Wikipedia page, or, to be specific about it, well, there's an image somewhere. It seems to be here. Not that important, but I'm sort of like that. I'm going to see if I can find it. I can't find it, but I can't find any specific one. It's basically some sort of Facebook thing. I can't remember. I don't really look at Facebook. I was looking at Facebook and I came across this something, Vultures of Calcutta, and it's basically this image. But these images all appear to be fairly similar, but obviously this is a street full of bodies, obviously some time after, and these are all the vultures. So, and I looked at that and I thought, what the hell is this? And obviously it's the aftermath of the Direct Action Day, also known as 1946 Calcutta Killings. I mean, I don't know, because I only just discovered this a while back, probably 3 or 4 days ago. I haven't really been studying it, but next time I get a moment, I'm going to jump at this and do it. So I don't know, but I'm guessing it's probably called the 1946 Calcutta Killings, and Wikipedia has sort of preferred to call it Direct Action Day. It sounds, I mean, maybe they did call it Direct Action Day, but it seems to be one of those purified terms for something. I don't know. I'm guessing that. It's just a wild guess. I wouldn't want to say, because I know that, Wikipedia has a definite tendency to play down certain ways of thinking. Let's just put it that way. You can't, for example, you can't have a page on, say, someone that carried out a mass killing. You would have a page on the victims, and then a footnote saying that, such and such person, etc. I mean, you can understand that more, but I think generally speaking it goes, it's one of these things that means that statues of people that were slave traders have to be moved, Confederate flags in America have to be removed, Confederate leaders, history has to be rewritten in order to satisfy the current ideology driven by, I mean, I don't want to get into a rant on this, but I often sort of wonder, what's the point of having Google when everything points to Wikipedia, which is all sanitized to indoctrinate, and to put things into their perspective. But the thing is, I mean, it's not completely, not eradicating history, but I would say, so I don't know, it's a wild guess, but this one, I've called it 1946 Calcutta Killings, just because, that seems a far more brutal term, for it. Direct Action Day sounds as though people protesting and standing up for their rights, which wasn't what happened here. And what actually happened was they had a meeting, I'm not going to go into it too much. Basically, it's all about the Partition of India. So the Muslims want, they want, because I don't even know it all, but I don't think Pakistan was independent at the time. It was part of the Indian sort of thing, the British colonies, etc., etc. And so they were basically negotiating the partition of India, and obviously the Hindus and Sikhs and probably wanted their own areas, and the Muslims wanted their areas, and so they're discussing which areas are going to be Pakistan, which areas are going to be other areas of the partition, because essentially it wasn't sort of who's going to be India, because if you remember, in here we've got the Hyderabad scenario, which is also the partition. No. No, it wasn't India. What's it called? Maybe I can find it for the regions. Asia. Battle of Surabaya. Operation Polo. That's the one I'm looking for. Because this was still. So if you look at that, this is 1946. Calcutta Killings. I mean, Hyderabad, Operation Polo, was still before the full partition, because they had partitioned as their own state. Obviously, I love this game. I love this map, but I don't think it's actually done very well. It's a bit complicated, but it's a complete scenario, and I'm not going to go into it. But the Dominion of India carries out police operations to annex the state of Hyderabad. So they, during the partition, became their own state, Hyderabad. But they messed it up really, because they started to become quite aggressive, and they were quite elitist and quite powerful, but obviously they were no match for the superior numbers and mass of the actual Indians. And so that resulted in them being basically taken out in this police operation to annex the state, which is a major conflict. So, the whole partition thing goes on for quite a way. I don't actually know the full history of it. But anyway, so they meet to talk about the partition, these Muslims, at the Muslim League, meet to discuss the partition of India at the Ochterlony Monument. During the meeting, that they sort of, it's a bit unclear as to what happens. And again, I'm not an expert on this. I've only really sort of read through all of this. But basically, they sort of meet. So this is day of action. So maybe that's the official thing. But they basically they address the Muslims on about, to talk about the situation, and during which, so the meeting began at 2 p.m. Processions of Muslims from all parts of Calcutta, and there's the pictures of them attending the meeting. They start with prayers. A large number of the participants were reported to have been armed with iron bars and lathis, bamboo sticks, and a number attending were estimated by the Central Intelligence Officer's reporter, a Hindu, at 30,000, and by a special branch inspector of the Calcutta Police, a Muslim, at 500,000. The latter figure is impossibly high, and the Muslim Star of India reporter said it was about 100,000. So, but during which they speak to them and they address them and they preach peacefulness and restraint. Obviously, I'm just reading this. But the point that I'm getting to is so they had no one to interpret. The version of the latter was they've been unable to restrain the military and the police. However, the police did not receive any specific orders to hold back. So whatever Suwadi may have meant to convey by this, the impression was such a statement. So he makes a statement. Okay, let's just read this slowly because I'm like that. Just read things. The Special Branch of Calcutta Police had sent only one early shorthand reporter to the meeting, with the result that no transcript of the Chief Minister's speech is available, but the Central Intelligence Officer and a reporter, who Frederick Burrows believed was reliable, reputed by the military authorities, agree on one statement not reported by all the Calcutta Police. The version in the former's report was he had seen to police and military arrangements who would not interfere. The version of the latter's was he had been able to restrain the police, the military and the police. However, the police did not receive any specific order to hold back. So whatever Suwadi may have meant to convey by this, the impression of such statement on a largely uneducated audience. See, this is what I don't really understand any of that. They gave basically the inferences, the impression of such a statement on a largely uneducated audience is construed by some to be an open invitation to disorder. Basically, an open invitation to disorder to destroy all the Hindu businesses. So basically he must have said something that was, whilst on the one hand was maybe okay, when you're saying it to a largely uneducated audience, was an open invitation to disorder. Indeed, many of the listeners are reported to have then started attacking Hindus and looting Hindu shops as soon as they left the meeting. So something happened at the meeting that resulted in the Hindus doing that, the Muslims looting Hindu shops. Subsequently, there are reports of lorry loads of trucks that came down the Harrison Road just to the south in Calcutta, carrying Muslim men armed with brick bats and bottles as weapons, and attacking Hindu-owned shops. Slightly later after that, the basically Sikhs and Hindus start arriving in lorry loads armed with bats and guns, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But on the 17th, it goes on till the 21st, when 5 battalions of British troops arrive. But at 6 p.m. there's a curfew, and basically the Indian troops and the police, they control the centre area, but they don't control the outer areas. So this is represented by a limited number of troops. On the 17th of August, the President of the Garden Reach Textile Workers Union, along with Elian Mistry, a Muslim hooligan, led a Muslim mob to the mill compound of the Kesoram Cotton Mills. Basically they killed over 300 workers. The mills are here, so later on there's that sort of the massacre there. So basically there's some places named, and I've just plonked shops everywhere, just randomly, so that you've got something to beat up on. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I suspect I might need more rioters, but let's just play it now. How do you play it? Okay. So they've just had their meeting and somehow been informed that they can go and loot all these shops. So obviously they're starting the wrong way around, because the Muslims should go first, so I have to reset that. Okay, I reset that, so I'll have to start again. The only other thing I will say at this stage, I suspect that because these rioters have 0-0, that they won't be able to actually have an effect on these things. Oh yeah, the other thing I didn't mention is refugees. There's a lot of refugees sort of come out, and they have to sort of cross the bridge and run away this way, and the bridge basically becomes jammed with refugees. and they can start taking the refugees as well, really, I guess. I wonder what the odds will be here. So they started to kill the refugees. Okay. There should be some policing in the fort. Maybe I've adjusted things. Let me just look at this. Okay, so I've made an adjustment on that, but it won't affect this. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, I'm not going to blatantly go around attacking the refugees, but this is what they're doing really. The refugees are really obviously just to represent what happened and the confusion that they entail and whatever create. Yep, well that seems to work. So they've all gone down to one level, so they're being attacked, so they're now looting the shops. The Hindus and Sikhs control the refugees and the military, but they're not to be part of the same side, so you're not using them in unison. So for the refugees, you basically just got to run away. And generally speaking, that means running away. And now we have these people, and the police appear here. So we now have more Muslims arriving, and we now have these people. So they're coming to sort of protect their shops. Oh no, it's a Muslim turn, so they've just arrived. So let's riot and destroy all these shops, why not? So it's now the Sikh and Hindu turn. The refugees are going to run away, clogging up the bridge. The police are going to try and maintain some order. Two to one, so they've forced these protesters back. But they were only able to go out and exchange with these. We've got some more police who are going to come in and try and maintain some order. But we've got protesters now who are going to... Now I've never done this before. Right, I'm going to have to do something about that. And I'm going to do it now, I think. Because basically when protesters attack protesters, they shouldn't be getting, 7-to-1 odds. They should be pretty much getting parity. So I'm going to pause it there while I sort that out. Okay, so I've made a little adjustment. No idea if it will work or whether it's the right way to do it, but essentially it's protesters. Can't really get much further than that. it's protesters versus protesters, the defence should be 1. Okay. Now they're going to continue with that. They've destroyed all these shops. So now they're going to confront some protesters. Okay. So slightly different odds. Okay, I think I know what's happening there. They're defending on 1, but they're attacking on 0, possibly. Let me see what I can do here. Okay, so see how this works now. That's an interesting combination, because I've got rules in there that says if they're protesters and they're attacking protesters only, then you get the odds, but this is not protesters only, it's protesters with refugees. Now the refugees shouldn't have any defensive value. Anything else would offer the defensive value. So let me have another look. Okay, sort of interesting. Okay, so let's see what the odds are now. We've got lots of refugees, but only one lot of protesters. Yes, that's right. We've got a good result there, because we were attacking at, like, well, we had 2, 1, 2 attacking at 1 each, 2, but he was 1 in heavily built up, so that's 3. So you're going to need more, really. I did think of that when I did it, and I could put the defensive value down something, but the thing is, if I was to do that in the open, that would have been a 2-to-1 attack. So it's sort of a bit weird. I could almost maybe do it so that the terrain didn't affect it, but I don't want. It's all a bit complicated, so I'm not going to go any further. I'm happy that it's sort of a little more balanced. We'll just see how that plays out. Obviously, you have to get the odds to do the attacks. So that pushed them back. So here we have a 1 to 3. I'll just change something. Okay, well if this works, it was less painful than I thought it would be. So we've got this guy here who can attack these protesters there. They should in theory get a 1-to-1. Yes. That was less painful than I thought it would be. So, if they're protesters against protesters, terrain factors are not counted. It just sort of seems to make more sense. But that was an exchange. So still you're going to need the odds, but let's go and find some shops to loot. Okay, we'll remove the refugees, but haven't been moving there, I think. So as ever, historically they are getting stuck on the bridge. But, so this should be a 2-to-1. So we've got an exchange. So here, we should get a 3-to-1. But is he being hit before? It's question 6, so quite honest, probably don't need that many. But let's just make sure we've got them. So we're 6-to-1, 7-to-1, and we eliminated them. Okay, which means we can now attack this stack here. Two to one in exchange. Okay, and the police, they're going to move in as well. We're going to hold the fort. So they're just coming in to sort of defend the main sort of sectors, which have already been looted. As you can see, we've got a lot more people coming on now. So obviously protesters can overstack. So there should be a 3-1. Take some of the refugees. I can attack the police. Let's see what odds were. 1-2. Okay. I'm going to do one more turn because I sort of a bit busy really. I just really wanted to sort of get this scenario out because it's sort of a bit of an unusual one really, and it's involved quite a lot of additional sort of programming that's sort of not so much offset my mind, but it has meant that I haven't focused really on the strategy and figuring out how things work. But Muslims don't look like doing very well really. So there are all these Sikhs and Hindus coming in. But I think because earlier on we did some sort of crabby attacks where we're getting really, 0-7 and things like that, has had a small effect. Not that I think that they should be overwhelming, but they're definitely not going to do very well here, are they? We've got the police moving in. Now the police are only to secure a hex. We're not going to use them to attack, just for fairness, in the sense that they were trying to quell the whole riot. So I did contemplate introducing 3 players, and we've got 3 players in the sense we've got non-combatants, but things we need a 3rd player to play the police and the refugees that could be attacked by either side. So because the Hindus and the Sikhs can't attack the police, then the police shouldn't be able to attack, because the police can't attack the Hindus and Sikhs, they shouldn't be able to attack the Muslims there. So we're going to try to basically occupy the centre of Calcutta, which is what they did historically, but without attacking anything. So we've always sort of covered most of this area. So it leaves the refugees. Fleeing. Well, we should be 1, 2, 3-1. Yeah, because I got 10% bonus, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 7.1, and they are all wounded, so that was right. Click, 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 click. Okay. Riot. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that. And obviously it's just more moving this around. But I think it's an interesting representation of the 1946 Calcutta Killings, or the day of action, the direct day of action. Direct Action Day, which resulted in the 4,000 to 10,000 people dying, and the vultures of Calcutta being well fed. Obviously, at some point, the British forces will come into play. So the timescales are not really sort of designed to be, all that specific. It's just a generalization. I think it's an interesting scenario, and it's certainly a sort of a contrast to the ones I've been doing recent, which have all been recent. 2020. I mean, 1946 is about as far back as I go. I think I've got 45 in there somewhere, which is post World War II, not part of the Second World War. I have always considered going further back. It's just I don't want to cover the Second World War because it's just so vast and complex, and I think more importantly specific. To be quite honest, I have considered doing another site that focuses on the Second World War and other sites that do other things. There's no reason why I couldn't include it in this site, but I sort of don't want to contaminate this site with that large genre of World War II. But the thing that's sort of not so much a bugbear, but the Spanish Civil War just seems so compelling that I feel like including it. I'm really tempted right now, just even for the first time thinking about it for a long time and sort of doing that. It's just the problem with the Second World War is that there's so much on it that no matter what I would do, it would be wrong, because I just generally throw things together, and people don't know much about the 1946 Calcutta Killings, so I can't really go wrong in sort of my representation of it. But if this was a Second World War scenario, people would be, not that people do complain, because I don't think they do, but I think, it'd be setting myself up for, people that want to criticise what I do as for one reason or another. It would just be handing it to them on a plate, because it would be not quite historically accurate. I mean, it's not something I'm actually concerned about. It's just I don't want to open that can of worms. I don't think there'd be a tsunami of negativity or anything like that. It just seems that I just would rather not sort of start, offering up a specialist opinion or perspective on something that's been so well researched in other quarters. But the thing is, at the same time, I am actually, even at this moment, thinking of doing that either on another site, but to be quite honest, I could do it on this site. Even as I'm thinking now, I'm just so tempted, because it would just open up so much that could be done. So many scenarios and situations. It would be tempting. The thing is, I haven't run out of modern war. But yeah, I don't want to maybe waste too much more video time thinking about it, but I am actually sort of contemplating the vastness of what's possible. because I could do the entire Western Front, I could do D-Day, the Sicily, North African campaigns, and I could just do it and throw it all together, and wow. But anyway, that would be something to do. I'll leave it at that anyway. Hopefully this scenario will interest you. I'm going to add a few more initial Muslim protesters right at the start, because I don't think this situation was too unprecedented, and there's just not enough of them. So I'm not saying they should have the upper hand, but I certainly think they should have the initiative in that sense. And yeah, so I'm going to probably double the number of initial ones that are present at the meeting. But anyway, I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.